Hey guys, this is Anon, and today I want to talk about update 3.5, which is bringing some rebalancing to middle tier light tanks. The official word from Wargaming is they were adjusting penetration for middle tier light tanks so that their tactics would be based on dynamics rather than head-on-head confrontations. And based on what they did, it looks like that is mostly accurate. There's a few differences in here that I wanted to talk about, so that's why we decided to go ahead and make the video today. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the RU-251, the Tier 8 German light tank, and luckily this is the least changed tank of all four, and I say luckily because this is my personal favorite of the four. So what they have changed is the top 90mm Rheinmetall DM1 gun. The penetration of the standard shells has been reduced from 190mm to 180mm. I personally don't think this is going to make much of a difference because the premium ammunition hasn't been changed at all. It still has really good penetration, and 10mm isn't going to be a huge deal for a primarily flanking tank, so not a big change here. Moving on to the T71, the American Tier 7 light tank. Changes here are for the top 76mm T185 gun. The penetration on the standard AP shells have been reduced from 175mm to 160mm. Not a major change since they're still APCR and have that great penetration. The top heat shells have been reduced from 210mm to 200. Also, that's a pretty small change. I don't think that's going to have a huge impact. The major change for me is the reload time in the magazine has been decreased from 15 to 13 seconds. That's increasing the DPM from 1607 to 1856, which is a pretty significant change. And honestly, that was my biggest complaint with this tank. It wasn't really competitive DPM, and now this is going to make this tank quite a bit more dangerous. I feel like the DPM increase far outweighs the penetration losses, especially on light tanks where you're going to be fighting on the flank. So I don't think that is going to be a major issue again, but a welcome change with that slight buff on the DPM. The German Tier 7 light tank, the SP1C, has seen probably the biggest changes. There are actually changes across all the guns, but I'm going to focus on the top 90mm Makar, which has had the AP penetration reduced from 180mm to 160. The heat has been reduced from 250 to 200, which is really a pretty significant drop. But the biggest differences, I think, are in the DPM. The reload time of a single shell has increased from 2 to 3.5 seconds, and the magazine from 14 to 12.5, which actually gives a slight overall DPM increase, but the single shell is a huge difference. For me, that's a pretty big nerf because a lot can happen in 7 seconds, and that DPM drop of the heat shells is extremely significant. Finally, the Lttb. Tier 7 Russian Light has seen changes also on all of the guns, but most significantly on the top gun. The second gun, the D5T85 BM, has lost some DPM, going from 6.5 seconds to 7.5 seconds reload. And the top gun has lost penetration from 170 to 150 on AP, 216 to 200 on the heat. And reload time has also gone from 6.6 to 7.2, while also seeing some reduced aim time. The biggest difference for me on this tank is a lot of people are already running the second gun, which has only seen a DPM drop off, and that lost 300 DPM. Both of them lost 2 to 300 DPM, but a lot of people use that second gun because it has much better gun depression, difference of 5 and 8 degrees, and now it basically makes those two guns identical in penetration and aim time, or dispersion. So there's really no reason not to be using that second gun for the better gun depression. So. A little bit of a nerf overall, but I think it's just going to push people towards that second gun quite a bit. Overall, I think these changes are going to affect the SP1C the most. That heat penetration drop is really significant, and that's going to be pretty low for its tier at 200. Most of those standard AP nerfs aren't going to be overly significant. It actually puts it more in line with something like the T62, which already had 145 penetration. So I don't think there's going to be major changes, but I do think it's going to force everyone to work more of flanks and be a little bit sneakier with it. The lights were never really intended to be head-on-head brawling kind of tanks, and that's kind of what we got because of the high penetration value. So I don't think this is a nerf to be too disappointed about. I think it's going to be good for balance, and hopefully people won't be too upset about it because I think it could possibly be good for the game. And either way, I think they're all very overcomable. So hopefully this video helps you a little bit and makes you a little bit more prepared for these changes. I still think we're going to see plenty of these light tanks running around, so it probably won't make too large of a difference in that way. So take care, guys.